Hi everyone, my name's Electric Donkey, and today we're back on the No Man's Sky project type thing we've got going. And today we are back doing the world generation type thing. So, out of episodes, just like I said I would, I've made a few sprites if you want to just have a check. They're not very good, they're not very magnificent, and I meant backgrounds. I said sprites, but I meant backgrounds. And basically they're just BK block dirt, and that's 16 by 16, they're all 16 by 16. BK block wood, stone, and then air, which is just transparent. That's all you're going to need. You can go make them in your own time, really, you don't have to call them that, but I just chose to. So anyway, back to the kind of integration of this code, that's the word. So, if you remember in the last video, we made the crust of the earth, and that was about it. We placed our blocks down, and everything was pretty cool, and everything was kind of working, but we didn't actually do anything other than that. So, this is where this little bit of code comes in. In fact, this bit isn't necessary at all, however. Well, we'll just go and give it a go, shall we? So, basically, all we have to do here is we're going to repeat for the height of the room. And all we're going to do is literally repeat height. And this, I believe, is set to however many tiles we can squeeze within the height of our room. Now we need a for loop. For var yy equals 1. Yy is less than height. Yy plus plus. In fact, before we actually have a look here, let's just go and check what we are actually doing here. So we're repeating for the height. We're going all the way. Yeah, what we're doing is we're going all the way from the very, very top of our room all the way to the very bottom of our room. And then we've got these for loops here. Really, we don't need them there. In fact, I'm probably going to rearrange that because this is the important bit, this little if statement here. What we check, as you do need these bits there, otherwise the if statement wouldn't work. We check for that, basically in the for loops we've looped through every single tile possibly in our room. And then in here, we've then said, well, does that block equal a dirt block? Because that's our crust. And if that block does equal a dirt block, then we want to fill every single block underneath that dirt block with more dirt, so that it actually gets a little bit full, as opposed to just a really empty and boring crust. So actually, if you don't understand what I'm on about here, I'll try and explain it a bit better later, once we've got all this code down, because we can just then comment bits out and start to see if we chop bits out what it would actually look like, and I tell you, it wouldn't look good. But basically here we are just checking to see if that block is dirt. If that block is a block of dirt, then every single block underneath that crust block as such, then we are going to set that, actually we need to put +1 because that'll place it underneath that one, +1, and that's going to equal BK block dirt. And here comes the fancy bit, because this is where we're going to want to draw the level, or draw the planet in using the grid. So our actual grid is all nice and set up here. So we've got every single block in the grid that we want, but our grid is purely numbers, it's purely data at the moment. It's not been drawn or placed inside the room yet, it's just there, it's behind everything. So, what do we actually need to do now? Well, once again, we need to loop through every single block. I'm not going to write this out again because it gets a little bit repetitive, but basically we're just looping every single block possibly that we could fit within our room. Pretty simple, right? And then we're going to check if that grid this actually reminds me we need to go back and check change something else, don't we? So BK air. So if it doesn't equal air, because obviously air, we don't need to place a tile there, do we really? It's just empty nothingness. Then we're going to add a tile in, and we're going to use the YY and the XX ones that we've put in. For the left and top, doesn't really matter, we're just going to put 0 because it's not a tile set. And then for the width, obviously cell width, and for the height, cell height, because that kind of makes sense if you know what I mean. And then nice and simply just XX times by cell width, and this is for the X and Y, because if we just put XX in, XX just goes up in 1 every single time, so we'd end up with just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What we really want is 0, 16, 32, 48, 64, etc, etc. So then we want the exact same for the height, just with height obviously, and the YY instead, and for the depth just 0. Now that's about it, guys. Actually, I'm going to full screen this really quickly so you can go and write this down and make sure you've got it all written into your game right now. So pause it now if you want to go and do that. Otherwise though, we've got one last thing to do before we set off. Right up right here, we need to clear our grid as such. We need to not necessarily clear it, but set it to our air, which is our empty kind of variable. So we're going to fill the grid with air. And obviously, if you go back down to here, we've checked to see if it's not air. So if it is air, well, at the minute, none of it's air. But we want the whole thing to be air before we've placed any blocks in. So ds grid set region. In fact, I've never actually heard of that function before. I'm just going to use ds grid clear because I think that's probably a little bit easier. Planets, and we're going to put in bk air. Right, guys, I think that should probably work now. Not entirely sure, but we'll give it a go. There's no reason why it shouldn't. I will then also go into explain what it would look like without the filling in of the crust as it was. I don't know. Okay, so here's our awfully made sprites and everything. What happens if we go and click on this planet? Well, we've got a little bit of an error. Oh, silly me. I've obviously wrote grid instead of planet. That's probably just my habit. So let's just go and change that really quickly. You're probably laughing at me right now and saying, oh, I did that in mine. Or I did it right in mine even. So somewhere we've obviously put grid here. We've put it several times actually. Let's just type in planet, 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 and finally planet. It's a bit of a habit of mine because whenever I'm making a grid normally I'll just call it grid, but it's not a great habit to get into if you're going to use more than one grid, because obviously they'll start to conflict and we start to get issues and errors and what have you. So it looks like this video is going to be slightly longer, but I want to get this finished and showing you guys what it will look like. So here we go. Obviously the physics isn't exactly great there. We also appear to have 2 players. Not quite sure what's going on there. But we can't actually see the room, can we? Oh dear. Well, let's just go and sort this out. First of all, let's get rid of that player. We don't want him there. Also, let's go ahead and just remove the use of views for the time being, so we'll actually be able to see the whole room, and we can see the randomly generated room in its glory. Also, another thing to note, I think someone asked me, will all the rooms will all the planets have to have their own room? No, they won't actually. Each planet will have it stored in a little variable, in a JSON file, is what we're going to use. And then, basically, when you click on that planet, it'll just beam you down to that planet. It will all use this same room planet 1. Not quite sure what's going on here, guys. But let's go and have a fiddle really quickly and see if we can go and sort that out. I'll also show you what you can do, well, what it would look like if we didn't fill in this. I think what we've done is somewhere we've put, I think that's meant to be 0 there, I believe. So let's just, really quickly, let's just go and test that, make sure that's working before we start taking bits out and playing around with it and making it look worse. We'll make sure it works to start with. It's always important when you're making a game is to make sure it works, otherwise it's not a very good game, is it? Yep, there we go, perfect. And you can see it is different to the last one. It's got some bumps, it's got some lumps, and in the next video we'll go into some movement and what have you. So if you're just here for the pure game sort of building experience, well, you're off now, basically. I'm just going to go and show you guys what it would look like without the without this bit here, which is what fills in the actual grid. So don't do this if you are actually just here for making No Man's Sky. Otherwise, if you're just here to learn and you know, play around a bit, go and give it a go. Give it a go. Go ahead and give it a go, that's what I was going to say. It's worth playing around with it and getting used to the code. But you can see there, that's what it would look like if we didn't fill it in. So what we can see is we've made this nice little ridge of the world, but obviously this is all empty underneath it. So what that code did is it went all the way down, all the way down, all the way down on this row. As soon as it hit this, it started filling these ones in, these blocks in. And then it went, as soon as it hits down here, it goes, right, I've finished this row, up onto the next one, all the way, all the way, all the way down, until we hit that, and then fill us all in with dirt. So guys, let's just go and really quickly just change that back to what it was before. But we've got some planets now. We've got one planet sorted. But that's not it. That's not one planet. In fact, that's several planets. You could put this object world generation in any amount of rooms you want. If you kept going back to this room planet, you could potentially change the room gen and make it so that it's different every single time, which is what we are going to do. But anyway guys, that is it for this video. Next video we will be going ahead and making our player actually be able to move on the planet, and we might go into a little bit of some more planets and all that fancy sort of stuff. But for the time being guys, that's going to be it. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, or just do whatever you guys want to do, and I will talk to you later.